Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Welcome to the next thrilling and exciting, inimical, irrevocable, irreplaceable, irreproachable, castigated, saturnine, and taciturn episode of the section of the Reading Cow from Another World with the third chapter in learning how to read Chinese. And I was just looking at the text here, and it's got like the font is like what's called, I think it's called Cao Shu. It's a kind of writing that's very hard to read. It's poor. And you know what? I have a mistake. This should not be Xin Ming, but rather Xin Shi. Okay, what's the difference? Xin Ming is surname. What I meant to be talking about is family name. So here, we're going to correct that now. Still the same first part. Xin Shi. And you see the second entry there? That's going to give me the family name. Now, I noticed that because I was reading about Shennong, and I was saying that Shennong was, it's like some people think of Shennong as like a person, but also some people think of the Shennong tribe, right? And so in that text, it mentioned Shennong Shun. I said, and it was a much larger font, and I was like, wait a second, that's an error. So I have to own up to that. And what should I say? Let me see. Where are we going with this? So we're talking about family names here. Let's go down again through the text and do a quick review. 在上古时代的原始部族就有了姓。Okay, that's right. 当时社会以母系为中心。That's correct. 同以母系后代不通婚。That's correct. 为了区分不同的婚姻体系，便有姓。Alright, that's correct. Okay. And the next thing we talked about is in the ancient times, the character for a name, many of them have the nu zapang, which means that the nu radical appears in the beginning. And then, for example, Shennong, Xing, Jiang. Okay, so the name of Shennong was Ginger, Jiang. Okay. Now, something that came to mind, it's like, okay, I'm a foreigner, so I'm going to make mistakes when I'm teaching Chinese and pronunciation and all kind of stuff, and I have so many humorous stories, and when I made the mistake between surname and family name, it brought to mind, I remembered I saw a lecture of a professor who was he was called the foremost expert on political economy of China, and he would always start his lecture by coming out and saying something in Chinese to show everybody that he really knows how to speak Chinese. So I get ready to listen to his lecture, and he comes out and he says, 早饭有力. Okay. 早饭有力. Okay. I'm a foreigner, but when I see when I hear 早饭, I think breakfast, that's what this says. 早饭有力. Okay, 力量 power, right? So it has power. Okay, so this is the humorous thing about Chinese is when you pronounce it the wrong way, not only did they not understand you, but you said something different. Because what he really wanted to say was 造反有理, right? To rebel is justified. 革命无罪. 革命无罪. Okay, so instead of 造反有理, we want 造反有理. Think of this like, you know how you learned when you were first starting Chinese? 你好. Okay. 你好. 你 means you, right? 好, good. And when you put 你 and 好 together, it means hello, right? You good? I'm good. We all good? Yeah. Okay. So, but when the key is when you put 2 third tones together in Mandarin, in the pronunciation, the first of the 2 tones becomes a second tone, a rising tone. So you don't say 你好, you say 你好, right? The first tone is the rising tone. Now, the same here, 有 is the third tone, but it comes in front of 理. So it should be pronounced the same way as 你好. It should be a third tone changed to a second tone. 有理. And then 革命. 革 is the second tone, rising tone. 命 is a fourth tone. And 无 is a rising tone. 罪. Revolution is not a crime. So rebellion is justified, revolution is not a crime, and not breakfast has power. How embarrassing. I'm sorry. But yeah, I have made some really, really embarrassing mistakes before. And down the road, I'll introduce you to some of those. But in the meantime, let's get back to what we were studying. Now, don't forget, I would like you to remember the difference between 造反有理 and 造反有理革命无罪. It's the meaning is different, folks. Okay, I'm gonna have to delete that. Okay, now where were we? Our first example was 神农姓姜. Now the next one is Huangdi Xingji. Let's see if I can write this out. Huangdi. Now, you notice, okay, 2 things come up here when I type Huangdi. In my text, what I have is the yellow emperor, which is number 2 there. Now, the first one is the august emperor. Now, they both pretty much mean the same thing. They're talking about a legendary, perhaps a historical figure. You know, did he exist? You know, we say Abraham existed, and we say Moses existed. Maybe Huangdi existed. Okay, now there's a bunch of. I think some people say that in the Qin dynasty. That they adopted this name for the emperor Huangdi, the august king, the august, the auspicious emperor, right? But originally it was the yellow emperor Huangdi, and then some scholars say that it was like, well, they use yellow because of a name taboo that it should have been Huangdi, but you don't want to use the actual character. Because you get a taboo, a name taboo once it becomes to refer for somebody very powerful. But in our case, from my text, we have the second term, and hopefully, you know, I think in here we're gonna revisit this person or this legendary emperor from the maybe the 3rd century before the Common Era. Very, very ancient. Some people think of him as like the first original Chinese ancestor. Okay, now here's an interesting story. My text here, it says Huangdi Xinji. Let me write this out. And you see nothing comes up. Okay, there's number 1. And then, okay, wow, it guessed when I put that, I'm like, does it know this? Okay, so let's look at this character. Now, okay, does anybody remember this? I mean, I think if you're students of Chinese, a lot of you will go, oh, I know this from somewhere. Where did I see that before? Okay, well, let's break it down. The first part of the character, this part of the character here is the woman, right? Now, what about the second part? The second part, do you recognize that? That's going to be Chen, right? And what does it mean? What is a Chen? Okay, well, a Chen is like an official or a king or something like that. So this is sort of like, it looks like if you try to take the meaning, it's like the woman of the official, the one. Well, I'm gonna remind you in case you forgot the famous movie. What is it? And look at that, it picked it right up. Right, the input method immediately recognized Bawang Bieji, which is, we translate this into English, is farewell my concubine. And so ji is understood to mean concubine. Okay, now also it has some sound ji that sounds like some other words as well. So some Chinese, when they see that sentence, Huangdi Xing Ji, they feel embarrassed, right? They're like, the Yellow Emperor's family name was Ji. Is that right? Now, when I first was studying this text, I was asking my teacher, the lady, I was like, what is that? It seems like I've seen this character. She was like, I don't know what it is. Of course she knows what it is, but it's one of those situations, like, for some reason she felt embarrassed, and I still, to this day, and this happens sometimes if there's something that may be taken controversially or could be interpreted in a way that makes China lose face or something like that. Nobody wants to give you a straight answer, because if they do give you a straight answer, then the next person will come along and say, "Who told you that?" Right, and then they're like, they go to that person. They're like, "You taught that foreigner something that embarrassed us. Don't do that." Yeah. Or you made the country lose face or something like that. And yeah, it's still a mystery to me, because I don't, well, I can read this. It's it says the family name of the Yellow Emperor is Qi, but I don't know the backstory about how this particular character, which we use to mean a concubine, how it got to be a family name. But that we're going to come back to this, and hopefully I'm going to put these courses online, and a wonderful, helpful Chinese person will solve the mystery for all of us. So Huangdi Xingji. Oh my goodness. And okay, I'm going to put a comma, and I just happen to know you, Shun. You see that came right up when I typed it, and the family name is Yao. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Comma. Okay, now this I want to talk a little bit about Yu Shun. Excuse me, Yu Shun. Um, so let me take a deep breath. Okay, so Da Shun or Yu Shun is a name of an emperor, and he you most often you're going to hear Da Shun Zhi Shui or Yu Shun Zhi Shui, like he dealt with a problem with water. He blocked the water or something, or administered the water. And what that means is that in history, this person is really famous for coming up with ways of diverting through canals floodwaters. And the history of China sort of begins with him. He's the last of five legendary emperors, and he received the throne from the Emperor Yao. And so why I'm talking about this is because this is kind of a hard character to look up. Now, a lot of Chinese characters, you know, they'll have one element, and you look up that radical, and you can find it right away. But this one, not so easy to find. Now, let me point out why. You might think, oh well, I could look it up by this. Looks like heaven here, Tian, right, and Ko here, and Qi 7 here, and then this thing. Wait a minute. Okay, when I see this thing, let me show what you might go through. Let me go to radicals. Okay, you might think, oh well, I'd look up this one. No, it's not there. Okay, and then you might think, oh well, it looks like it's got this thing. And you know what? That's not it either. Yeah, so whenever that happens, what you're looking at is you're probably looking at a situation where you got a more complex radical. And let me go back and we'll examine this character again. Now note, we don't have a radical in our list for this, right? But I can look, I've got, how many strokes do I have before I see the Ko and the Tian? Okay, well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's go back and go down to 6 and see if we can find the radical. Searching, I'm searching. Oh my goodness. Look at that. That looks like the radical that we need. I'm going to click on it. Okay, now, how many more strokes do we have besides from this? Well, if you remember, we had what? A Ko and a Tian, right? And Ko is 3 and Tian is 4, so that would be 7 more strokes. So we go down the list till we get to 7, and oops, there it is, folks. So to me, that's a little bit of a pain. Like, you know, I studied Chinese for a long time, and it's still, I run into a character like that, and it might take me a while to find out what it is. Okay, now let's go. we were able to look up this one. Let's go back and try. You know, one of the things that you do is you're like, oh man, that took me an age to find that. So you don't want to forget that radical. You want to, it's sort of like knowing the alphabet to know that. And it's who, right? Who. So I want to remember that who, right? Don't forget it. And that way, if ever I see it in a component, I'll have a chance to find that character faster. Okay, so now let's go back and get that Shun. Okay, how do I know Shun? Right, I can see several elements here. So I'm going to give you a scenario. Say I don't know it's you, Shun. But you know, really, folks, if you read children's stories, you're gonna know this guy because he's such an important figure. Every little kid knows Yu Shun, right? So what you go through as a foreigner is going to be a sort of a different situation, and I'm going to try to illustrate that for you now. So if I go back to my radical strokes, the first thing at the top, you know, I might look for is what, this one right here. You see that? You notice that? You see this guy right here? Isn't that the one that's up there on the top? Okay, say I'm trying to figure out this character on my own. I would go, okay, well, there it is. There's the first radical, right? So the second thing is 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5 strokes, then 6, 7, 8. So it's this plus 8. So I go back, and theoretically, right, I go here and I go to 8. There is this plus 8. It's the only thing I got. That's not the right one. Okay, so, well, what am I going to do? You know, let me go back and I'll look again. Okay, this guy right here, I recognize that. Maybe I could look up by that one. Now this one I don't want to forget. It's radical 87. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my radicals, right? And there's a 2-stroke one, this one right here. So I bring that up. And I just want to remember it. This is me, 4th tone, me. And it means a covering, right? A cover. And you know what? It's not there. It's not there either. Shun is not there. Okay, what okay, what am I going to do now? Okay. Well, there is this guy right here. That's 1, 2, 3 strokes. Let me go back to my radicals and go to the 3-stroke section. See if I can find it. There it is. Okay. Huh. Do you see it? See. Let's make a long story short, it's not there, right? And then I go back and I look again and there's this guy. Oh my goodness. You know, is that like a 10? Like a you know, maybe that could be it, you know. But let's go back and see if we can scan over things. Oh, whoop, oh. Did I just cheat? Okay, well, it just so happens that Shun, this guy right here, is a 6-stroke radical. That's a component of what we're looking for. Trot, right? And lo and behold, Chuan, plus 6 strokes. Is that it? You bet. That's it. Okay. There it is. Okay. Yu Shun Xin Yao. Okay. So that as a foreigner learning Chinese, that's the kind of situation that you're going to have to learn to live with. You know, and a Chinese person might not be that interested in teaching you about this stuff because they had it crammed down their throat, you know. And, you know, maybe they're not interested in it. They're all modern and everything. They don't care about ancient history. Not unlike a lot of modern Americans don't care about, you know, ancient history. Yeah, Chinese people are sometimes like that too. So as you study, as you learn how to read, you're going to run across situations like that. But I think that if you take a little bit of interest in Chinese history and Chinese culture, this will become easy for you. Because there's just, and this is one of the reasons why we're studying the Baijiaxing, because it introduces us to Chinese people. And Yu Shun is a famous Chinese person, and the Emperor Yao is also famous. So we're learning about them today. And we just learned how to look up some hard characters. Now I ran over. I want to keep these to be about 20 minutes long. And we ran over a little bit, so we thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in for the next thrilling and exciting episode of the Reading Cow from Another World with Bedtime Stories show that this is. And I just want to make one last quick review of what we learned to read today. 古代的姓多为女字旁. It means that the new character is going to be next to the rest of the character for many of these ancient names. We learned about Shun, and that his name was Ginger, and Huangdi, Xingji, and Yushun Xing Yao. Tune in again next time as we continue to learn how to read. And look, we're reading all this stuff. We learned so many things. We're actually learning to read Chinese. Join us again next time, and until then, goodbye.